Ever been on a cold call that just went, well, completely south in seconds? And you're left wondering, what just happened there?
Oh, absolutely. Or the opposite, right?
Yeah.
You puzzle over why one prospect seems to instantly get your brand. They're nodding along,
Yeah.
while the next one is just totally disengaged. Like they've mentally checked out before you finish your first sentence.
Exactly. We're talking about those split-second decisions, the ones that feel almost, instinctual on both sides of the call or the screen. So today, we're taking a deep dive into something really fundamental. We're calling it the biological imperative.
Right.
And specifically, how those deeply ingrained fight, flight, freeze, or fuse responses actually play out right here in the world of business development.
It's a fascinating lens.
Yeah.
Basically, our mission today is to unpack the neuroscience, the behavioral economics, the social science behind how prospects engage.
Yeah.
Or why they don't.
Okay.
We want to show you how these ancient survival instincts, things hardwired into us, are really influencing every single business interaction.
So it gives you a new perspective.
A powerful new perspective.
Yeah.
To understand, and this is crucial, to influence your prospects more effectively.
And we're pulling our insights from some pretty solid sources for this. We've got the comprehensive business development body of knowledge, and also some really intriguing studies that honestly might make you rethink your whole approach.
It certainly made me think.
Yeah, me too. So if you're looking for that edge, if you want to understand the sort of unseen forces playing out in your sales cycle, well, you're definitely in the right place for this deep dive.
Let's jump in.
Okay, so let's start at the foundation. This idea that every living thing, from a tiny cell right up to, well, a complex business,
Right.
has this fundamental drive to survive and thrive. That's the biological imperative we're talking about, isn't it?
That's the core of it. This drive pushes organisms, including us, to constantly engage with whatever environment they're in.
And when they encounter something new, something unexpected.
That's when these automatic responses kick in. There are really only 4 main ways they react initially.
Right. So let's picture your prospect encountering your brand, maybe your call, for the very first time.
Okay.
If their brain flags it as a potential threat, a threat to their status quo, their budget, their time, whatever,
A perceived threat.
it defaults automatically to one of 3 reactions. First is fight.
Yeah, and in business, that might look like someone getting angry, defensive, maybe even, yelling at you on that cold call.
We've all been there. Or they might choose flight.
The quick escape. That's the prospect who just hangs up super fast. They just want out of the interaction. Fear, avoidance.
Then there's the third threat response, freeze.
The deer in headlights. The perceived threat leads to maybe apathy or that really long, awkward pause on the phone.
Yeah, or they just go completely silent, speechless, total disengagement.
It's like their system just locks up for a moment.
Okay, but here's the flip side. And this is where it gets, I think, really transformative for business development. What if the thing encountered isn't a threat?
What if it actually supports growth? If it's perceived as beneficial, helpful, something that aids survival or thriving.
Then the organism does something different. It will naturally fuse with it.
Exactly. Forming a kind of symbiotic relationship. In our world, that means they engage, they ask questions, they lean in, they start exploring a partnership, they see value.
That fuse response is what we're aiming for.
Absolutely. And this directly links to why your emotional tone of voice is so incredibly critical, especially on those first contacts, like cold calls.
How so?
Because your prospect's subconscious brain, the emotional, instinctual part, actually senses the emotion in your voice faster than their cognitive brain processes the words you're saying.
Wow, okay. Faster than the words.
Much faster. Before they even logically understand your pitch, their primal brain has already registered a feeling from your tone, positive, negative, neutral. And that feeling immediately starts triggering one of those 4 responses.
So that first impression, that initial hello, isn't just politeness.
No, it's a deep biological assessment happening unconsciously. Friend or foe, threat or opportunity.
That makes so much sense. And you think about today's world, prospects are just constantly bombarded, right? Ads, emails, calls, messages.
It's information overload, constant noise.
So in that context, that initial emotional tone, that non-threatening signal, becomes even more crucial, doesn't it?
Absolutely critical. It means every time something new hits them, your brand name, your email subject line, the sound of your voice, it instantly triggers this automatic sorting process. Fight, flight, freeze, or fuse.
It's not just some abstract biology idea then.
Not at all. It's playing out constantly, shaping every potential deal, every interaction you have.
So this leads to a really interesting point you raised earlier. Organisms, people, they aren't necessarily predisposed to one response, are they? It's not like someone is just inherently a fighter.
That's a key insight. We often think in terms of personality types, but biologically, the evidence points elsewhere. The environment is the ultimate driver of the response.
The environment, okay.
It really challenges our assumptions about fixed traits driving behavior in these situations.
Is there scientific backing for that?
Oh, yes. There's a very compelling proof, actually. Think back to a really groundbreaking 1992 study by Dr. Bruce Lipton.
Okay, Dr. Lipton, 1992. What did he do?
Well, he took genetically identical stem cells, so same DNA blueprint, and he placed them into 3 different petri dishes.
Right.
Each dish contained a different growth medium. Think of it as a different chemical environment, different nutrients, different signals.
Okay, so identical cells, different environments. What happened?
That was the amazing part. In one dish, the cells developed into muscle tissue. In the second dish, they became bone cells. And in the third, they turned into fat cells.
Wow, from the same starting cells.
Exactly. Identical DNA, but totally different outcomes based purely on the environment they were placed in.
So what does that tell us?
It proved pretty conclusively that the DNA itself didn't predetermine the outcome. It was the environment that influenced how the genes express themselves, what we call the epigenetic response. The environments sent signals that told the genes what kind of cell to become.
Without changing the genes themselves.
Correct. It changed the expression of the genes.
Yeah.
And the implications are huge.
So connecting this back to us, to humans in a business context.
It's really no different. Our subconscious brain is like those stem cells' environment sensor. It's constantly scanning our surroundings, the social environment, the informational environment.
Looking for signals.
Exactly. Scanning for threats or opportunities. And our responses, fight, flight, freeze, fuse, are adaptive reactions based on the perceived conditions, just like those cells adapted.
So every interaction, every piece of marketing, every sales call is effectively creating an environmental condition for the prospect's brain.
Precisely. And their response is driven by how their subconscious interprets that environment you're creating or that exists around them.
Okay, let's dive deeper into the neuroscience then. What's happening in the brain during these reactions? Let's start with the threat response, fight or flight.
Right. So this kicks off in the more primal parts of our brain, specifically the limbic system. There's a key player called the amygdala.
The amygdala, I've heard of that. The brain's sort of fear center.
Kind of, yeah. It acts like an alarm system. It receives sensory input, what you see, hear, even feel through your skin, constantly scanning for danger signals. Often based on past experiences, sometimes even patterns learned very early or possibly inherited.
And when it detects something, it perceives as a threat, even if it's just a challenging question on a sales call.
Bingo. The amygdala sends an urgent signal to another part of the brain, the hypothalamus. This activates the sympathetic nervous system, the SNS. It's part of our autonomic nervous system, the stuff that runs automatically.
Well, it's an S. Sympathetic. That's the action system.
That's the one, the gas pedal.
Yeah.
The SNS then sends signals down a major nerve pathway called the vagus nerve, which stimulates the adrenal glands sitting on top of your kidneys to pump out epinephrine. We usually call it adrenaline.
Adrenaline. The rush.
Exactly. And that causes the classic physical signs. Heart pounds, breathing gets faster, shallower, blood gets redirected away from things like digestion and your immune system.
Priority shift.
Right. Blood rushes to your skeletal muscles, your arms and legs, preparing you to physically fight or run away. It's a deeply ingrained ancient survival mechanism. Very hardwired.
Okay, so that's the physiology. What are the consequences for, say, decision-making when a prospect is in that state?
Crucial question. If someone is constantly perceiving threats, maybe due to a stressful work environment or past negative experiences, they can enter a state called hypervigilance.
Always on edge.
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
Leading to chronic stress. Now, there was a significant study from Mount Sinai Hospital that looked at this.
What did it find?
It found clear evidence that a highly engaged sympathetic nervous system, meaning high emotional arousal, that fight or flight state actually degraded decision-making quality significantly. Well, it can lead to something called inattention blindness. You become so focused on the perceived threat that you literally miss other important information right in front of you.
Like those psychology experiments.
Exactly. Like the famous one where people are asked to count basketball passes and they completely miss seeing someone in a gorilla suit walk through the middle of the game.
Because their focus is narrowed by the task, or in this case, the stress.
Precisely. Stress-induced emotions like anger or fear also trigger the release of cortisol, the stress hormone, which further impairs focus, rational thinking, and clear judgment.
So a prospect in fight or flight isn't really hearing your value proposition?
Not clearly. They're biologically primed to react to danger, not logically evaluate a business proposal. Their cognitive functions are literally suppressed.
Okay, that's a stark picture for the threat side. But it's not always fight or flight. What about the non-threat responses freeze or fuse?
Right, those are governed by the other branch of the autonomic nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system, or PNS.
PNS, parasympathetic. That's the brake pedal.
Exactly. It's often called the rest and digest system. It counteracts the SNS. When the PNS is dominant, it releases a different neurotransmitter, acetylcholine, which slows the heart rate, calms the system, and actually promotes states conducive to learning and connecting, like from positive experiences.
So the freeze response is linked to this system too. It seems counterintuitive if it's about rest.
Well, freeze is interesting. It's thought to be a strategy to avoid detection, like an animal freezing when a predator is near. It buys time. And neurologically, it's complex, but it involves elements of both systems potentially. But that pause, that momentary stop.
You mentioned a study about a delay.
Yes, the 2008 study suggested there can be up to a 7-second delay between the subconscious brain's initial reaction and the conscious brain fully catching up and processing.
7 seconds. That's a long time in a conversation.
It is. And that freeze moment, that pause, might be giving the conscious mind critical time to assess the situation more deeply before committing to a full fight or flight or deciding to engage.
Okay, so the PNS promotes calm, learning, connection, the fuse state. Now, here's what really caught my attention. You said we can intentionally influence this system.
That's the empowering part. Unlike the SNS, which often kicks in automatically and feels uncontrollable, we can consciously stimulate the PNS. The conscious brain can influence it.
How? What are the practical ways?
Think about things like conscious breathing techniques. Box breathing, for example, where you inhale, hold, exhale, hold, all for equal counts. It directly signals safety to your nervous system.
Okay, breathing. What else?
Meditation is another powerful tool. Or even simple things that stimulate the vagus nerve directly, like forcefully coughing, singing, humming, even laughing.
Oh,
These can physically nudge the body towards that calmer PNS state.
that's fascinating. So this gives us, as business developers, a way to manage our own state, maybe before a stressful call.
Absolutely. Managing your own nervous system state is a crucial first step, but it also gives us insight into how the environment we create for the prospect might potentially help them shift towards a more receptive rest and digest fuse state.
By creating a sense of safety and calm, essentially.
Exactly. Reducing the perception of threat in the interaction.
Okay, let's bring this right into the practical world of business development. How does this play out with things like advertising and branding?
Great question. We see these principles very clearly in what's sometimes called the advertising threshold effect.
Threshold effect. What's that?
It's the idea that repeated positive exposure to your brand helps decrease the probability that a prospect will initially view your corporation as a threat when you finally make direct contact. Familiarity breeds comfort, essentially.
Is that like the old marketing rule of 7?
Precisely. That rule suggests it takes, on average, about 7 positive impressions. Seeing an ad, reading content, hearing the name for a prospect to become familiar enough with a brand that it doesn't trigger an immediate stranger danger response.
7 impressions to move from unknown potential threat to something more familiar.
Exactly. And there's data to back this up. One statistic often cited is that 80% of consumers say brand familiarity makes them more likely to buy.
80%. That's huge.
It is. And another study, this one from the Wall Street Journal, found that corporations that ultimately won deals were twice as likely to be well known to the buyer before the active sales process even began.
Twice as likely. So that upfront brand building, creating familiarity, is literally lowering the subconscious threat level.
It's moving your brand from the potential foe category towards the potential friend, or at least neutral known entity category in their subconscious mind. It gets you over that initial hurdle.
Okay, so once your brand isn't seen as an immediate threat, maybe thanks to that threshold effect, then the prospect might actually consider engaging.
Yes, that opens the door.
Mm-hmm.
But actual fusion, real engagement, usually requires another trigger.
And that goes back to the environment.
Exactly. It's often the extrinsic community and environmental conditions that truly compel engagement. Things happening outside the direct interaction.
Like what? Give me an example.
Okay, imagine a major new industry trend emerges. or a disruptive technology threatens a prospect's current way of doing business, their market share, their survival.
So an external environmental threat to their survival and thriving.
Precisely. Now, if your company, your solution, provides a clear, compelling way for them to navigate that specific environmental shift, to adapt, to survive and thrive in that changing landscape.
Then the connection becomes obvious to them.
Yes. Then fusion deep engagement, wanting to partner, becomes highly probable because your solution directly addresses their urgent, environmentally driven biological imperative to adapt and grow.
That's what you call the first moment of truth.
Exactly. It's when they see your offering not just as a product, but as a vital tool for their survival and success within their current challenging environment.
So effective prospecting isn't just about having a good script or product knowledge.
Not at all. The science shows it's deeply grounded in understanding these layers: neuroscience, behavioral economics, social science. It's about understanding these fundamental, often invisible human drivers.
Wow. Okay, so wrapping this up, what we've really unpacked today is that prospects aren't just making these coolly rational, logical business decisions on spreadsheets.
Not primarily, no.
They're operating on these incredibly ancient biological imperatives, constantly scanning their environment, unconsciously assessing threat versus opportunity.
Mhm.
And understanding that is just, well, it feels incredibly powerful for anyone in a business development role.
It really reframes how you approach interactions.
So as you, our listeners, go back out there, let's distill this down. What are the top, say, 3 takeaways from this deep dive?
Okay, 3 key things.
First one, environment is paramount. Remember Dr. Lipton's stem cells.
Crucial example. It's the environment you create and the interaction, the context you provide, and the broader industry landscape your prospect is operating in.
That's what really drives the response, fuse or fight, flight, freeze. It's not just some fixed personality trait.
Right. Your job becomes understanding and actively shaping that environment to encourage engagement.
Okay. Takeaway number 2.
Subconscious trumps cognition, initially at least. That emotional tone in your voice, the familiarity of your brand, that immediate gut feeling of threat or support.
It registers long before the logical brain fully engages.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So focus on building that positive, non-threatening initial environment. Work towards achieving that threshold effect of familiarity to move your brand from faux territory to friend in their subconscious.
Makes sense. And the third takeaway.
Conscious influence is your edge. This is the empowering part. You can consciously influence these primal responses.
Both in yourself.
Yes, managing your own state first, but also in how you present yourself and your brand. By understanding the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest system, and how to foster that state.
Through things like calm tone, clear value, reducing perceived risk.
Exactly. You can deliberately help shift the interaction towards engagement and growth rather than accidentally triggering defensiveness.
Environment, subconscious first, conscious influence. Got it.
Now, here's maybe a final thought to leave people with.
Okay, let's hear it.
Considering how deeply ingrained these biological imperatives really are, how might truly understanding them reshape not just your individual sales calls, but maybe your entire go-to-market strategy, how you build brand, even how you cultivate relationships and psychological safety within your own team and your company culture?
That's a big question. How far does this influence ripple outwards? That is a profound thought to sit with. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the primal science of business development. We really hope you found these insights both, well, surprising maybe, but also immediately applicable to your work.